to the direction that we're thinking about going into. There were a number of documents that I did request, and I did receive the current contract. I did receive the evaluation of Dr. Webb for 2018 to 2019. There was attached minutes that were sent. Then there's a new metrics that was sent to me, the CEO contract metrics that sort of list out some kind of new things for us to consider, in reference to whether or not we should talk about some kind of performance bonus, in reference to several things. So those are the things that we consider. But the first point always, it is at 2:04. I'm going to call the meeting to order, at this time, and let us go on and proceed. I want to poll the committee first, because it's the first thing that we need to decide is, do we want to retain Dr. Webb as our CEO? What is the pleasure of the committee? Let's resolve that issue first.
Hey, Chair Mason, I wasn't at the last meeting. I got the invite to be a part of this committee, but could you give me the charge? I mean, what do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know we're going to evaluate. I know it's something about contract and evaluation. Is that just it?
I'm thinking, and Alex, you can help me, is just to really review his contract. That we have received a sort of an example from him of what he's proposing as far as his compensation is concerned. But we are the committee that's to make a determination as it relates to his compensation and the terms and the conditions of the contract. Now that's okay. That was my understanding. Alex, did you understand anything different than that?
Sorry, hang on. Took me a second to unmute there. That's my understanding as well, that we're supposed to review the contract, that it's that this is a little bit overdue to give him an updated contract, but I didn't have any understanding beyond that.
Okay. Dr. Webb, welcome to the meeting, to our committee meeting. And I guess you will be available for any questions should we need to ask you any questions about the terms and conditions of the review that we're doing today in reference to the proposed contract. So the first question, does that help you, Frank, understand what our charge is?
Yeah, I think I got it now.
Okay.
So we're making a recommendation to the full board.
That's correct.
Based off of the information we've been sent.
That's correct. That is correct.
So we're making a recommendation on contract extension and language. Are we making recommendation on evaluation as well?
Well, see, I wasn't clear on that because I thought I'm not sure because I don't know that we could do an evaluation in this kind of format. This doesn't seem to be appropriate.
Wouldn't she be the one to do the evaluation? To go over the evaluation with me?
I don't know because I don't know that we were charged with the evaluation. That was not my understanding.
Right.
We do the evaluation.
I'm a little surprised that you. I'm certainly willing to go over it. With you guys if you want to go over it, but I thought you were charged with putting forth a contract.
That's. I think we already discussed that prior to you getting on the phone.
Oh, okay.
That was what our charge was, not the evaluation of it, because there is I think, according to what the material that I'm reading, that we have set up some times where the evaluation is supposed to take place. This is a contract that we're looking at that goes into effect, I believe, after the expiration of your current contract, which I believe expires in June of this year.
Right. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. All righty. So
the Chair Mason, I mentioned it probably would help me as well if I knew who else was on this call, because we're going to be talking about personnel and contracts and I got a couple of them that I just see, like Meharry Medical, and I see a phone, but I can't tell who else is joining us.
But you know it's a public meeting.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm saying I think these are staff.
Oh, okay. So who's on the line from Meharry Medical?
That's Dustin Anderson.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is caller in user 1. Would you identify yourself, please? You're on mute, whoever you are. Janet Lester is the.
That's my executive assistant. Yes.
Yes. And then Dr. Smoot is out there.
Yeah, I got you. So what was the length of the last contract? Was that a 2-year contract, Dr. Webb, or 3?
Well, I've been here 6 years, so you've done looks like 2-3 year.
Right.
Was it a 3-year contract?
Mm-hmm. Yes. It started June 15th.
Yeah, the first contract, we've only done 2 contracts. The first one was a 3-year, and the second one was a 3-year because I've been here 6 years.
Mm-hmm. And I think the main issue, there's some things in here that are going to be standard in terms of benefits and things that are offered. I think the key areas that we need to look at are compensation, the overall compensation. We need to look at what our expectations are in terms of there's some things that were set out in the previous contract. Hold on. That we were certain milestones that we had expectations of Dr. Webb meeting. Some of which he met, others of which he has not met yet. So one of the key things that has not been met is this PSA that certainly is still pending and has been pending for some time. But I believe that was in your contract dated 2018. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I think it was, and there was also some verbiage around that from the board. Since I don't control that process, it's.
Well, we're not going to get into the details of that. I think that's beyond what our responsibilities are and expectations are. I think it's still something that we need to be mindful of. I do still think that's part of your responsibility. Now, whether you ultimately can do it on your own is just a question. But I do think we still have the expectation that a PSA, certainly would be appropriate. But let's get to the core of it, the compensation. His current compensation has been reflected in one of the emails that was sent out. The current compensation is after July 1. However, once the board approves the increase for 2019 delayed due to waiting on the audit, which that's going to be handled today, which would be effective July 1, 2020, your salary would be approximately $436. That's assuming, that audit comes out satisfactory. They also provided us with a report that gave us an indication, and I don't know where that information came from, or whether are we talking about private hospitals, are we talking about public facilities? I don't know, but the request is that the request for $500,000 is near where his base would be projected based upon previous year's increase, and is still below the market rate for CEO positions. That was a statement that was given to us by the chief of our human resource officer. If we look at the proposed contract, that anybody have any questions about that? About what his current salary is?
a question,
Mm-hmm.
and this kind of plays into your comment earlier that we might get this all done today or we might not. If we don't wrap things up today, I would like to ask our executive team who gave us this information of whether those comparable salaries are for other similar nonprofits and safety net hospitals, or if they include for-profit hospitals.
Yeah, I've asked that question. I haven't got a response back from them yet because I think we're more guided by that information versus just a general salary evaluation. Dr. Webb, do you know where it's from?
I think that is a general. It's across the board, all encompassing. It's not just a private sector or public sector. If it were placed in strictly private sector, I just know for a fact that it would be substantially below market. But I think what they did was they took a mix of and put it in an average range.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So
now on the report we got from B. Smith, that slide presentation that they emailed to us, it had a median and mean market value for Southeast Hospital average CEO compensation.
Right.
Is that still correct data?
Yeah, that's still what they're utilizing.
Okay. Well, those numbers seem different from what you just mentioned, Mr. Mason.
yeah, that was the information that was, that was in the email that was sent to me. And I think that was based upon a request by by our CEO for us to consider that amount. I would assume that's the way I read the email.
Okay.
Is that a correct reading of it, Dr. Webb?
Okay. I didn't understand exactly what you said.
Well, he was saying that those numbers were a little different than what was in what we saw in the report that was given us in terms of salaries.
Was that recent? Because I haven't seen that.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Yeah, I don't know how recent it was. It was just what they gave us. So
to do this assignment, I haven't seen any of that.
they have not.
No.
Okay.
Last time I saw something was when the B. Smith people came and presented to you guys. I haven't seen Diana's document.
Well, it looks like it's the same document from November 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a year dated, but it's the
So it's probably higher then.
yeah. This is the data that given to us. I'm just.
we know you would say it's going to be high. And you know what? I don't even know how to negotiate. I don't even know how to negotiate a contract like this. I don't. This is really all strange, all this public stuff, and going over this. And I guess I've got the same sentiments that you do, Frank. That what this ought to be a little different, but it is the way we have to do it. So. If everybody could go to.
Let me at least show you this.
Okay.
Since I'm here.
Okay.
And
you're gonna share it.
Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
What are you seeing?
We see the Southeast Hospital compensation average.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I think we all saw that. We all got
okay.
That.
And that doesn't tell us if that's broken down between nonprofit or safety net hospitals and for-profit, right?
It doesn't.
No.
Okay, I'll stop.
Steve, my thinking is, and I think this is we can use this as a guide. I think that's why it's submitted to us. But we have to look at it in the context of several things. One, we've got to look at it in terms of what we're able to afford, from a financial perspective. And then we have to balance that with what if we make an offer to Dr. Webb, whether he's in a position or will actually decide to accept the offer that we're making. So I think it's somewhere in between those ways that we got to really adjust this. But starting really from where you are, right now, because if we go from, that's a pretty substantial increase.
What is?
Going from your current salary to $500,000.
from what was it, 430?
Yeah. For
over a 5-year period?
well, no,
Or a 3-year period, or whatever period you're talking about? That's a lot? $108 million, $110 million operation.
Well, yeah. If you put it that way, if we're talking, then you would just be getting your standard, whatever percentage that is that we put in there. Say, for instance, if it was 10%, then yeah, you would get to that number over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But we wouldn't. So if we said hypothetically, if we said, hey, we're going to start this contract off at $465,000, and you got your 10% each year, then that's about $40,000 each year. So yeah, that would get you there. Is that kind of how you were thinking, Dr. Webb?
Yeah. Well, for me, I was looking at if you're saying that we're at what is it, 430, 435, or something like that.
Let me see. No. It was. Hold on. Let me get down there.
When you add it,
436,207.
Right.
If in fact, once the evaluation, if your audit comes out okay, you would be at the 436,207.
Right. Which you'll get that audit. You get the audit today. The audit is clear.
Okay.
So that's a kind of a sneak preview. But at 436, so basically, at 440, you're talking about 60 to $64,000 that would go into a new contract. So it would be an increase of $60,000 that would
plus the other benefits that just go along with it. So it's
right.
Not you're just matching. They're matching things that are in this contract in reference to 401. There's other allowances in there. So what I was thinking about, and what I wanted us to consider is, getting you to the number that you got to. How do we do that? And we do it in some kind of incentive way. Put some numbers in here that will allow him to get to, that would not cap it any particular year. That we wouldn't cap it. So let's say if your base is right now, we'll just use 440. If your base is 440, and let's say we take it to say 450, as a renewal, but that 450 is what's locked, but you would be able to make whatever additional money based on some incentives. What is that? Does that make sense to you, Dr. Webb?
Yeah.
I don't know what they would be right now, but if we've got key performance indicators that we can, tap into and say if this happens and you get this happens and you get this, then that to me, it works in our benefit, as the hospital. It works in your benefit because it doesn't really cap what your worth is. We're not suggesting that we're paying what your worth is. We got to balance that with what we can afford to pay, realistically, realizing that we're a public facility, and we have to be in a position, I think, to withstand whatever scrutiny that we're going to receive on a hospital that our audit's going to be clear, but we're still not making money.
Well, in the first place, a hospital that sees 30 or 40% indigent patients by its charter and by its nature is not going to make a profit. So we can.
Well, we don't. Well, let me say we're not making money, but we're not losing as much either.
Right, we're losing a lot less, and to the tune of millions. So if you were to look at where I am now, it's just say at 440, essentially at 440 right now, and you were to say, okay, we're going to sign this contract. We're going to give you a little bit of a bump just by signing the contract, and I wouldn't want to go into a new contract at what I had in the old salary, is what I'm saying. I would at least expect that there would be some consideration to some additional, dollars that goes there. So when you say what we can afford and what we can defend, I think it's more of what you can defend, because this would be, whatever you gave me would be a drop in the bucket compared to your operating budget of $110 million that I'm responsible for, so that's really a drop in the bucket. Not much. But what are you willing to defend in the public? Because it is a public hospital.
Yeah.
But the rule of healthcare administration is this: whether you're running a public hospital or a private hospital or a for-profit hospital, your duties and responsibilities are essentially the same. You don't get a break because you're running a public hospital. Public hospitals right now, among the top 10 hospitals in earnings and salaries. So there's really not a difference in what you get paid. It really comes down to what is the board willing to take to the public in this community is really what.
What we have to balance is
Right.
So we're negotiating is what you're willing to take.
Yeah.
And to retain your, the first question I asked is, do we want to retain? That's the first question.
Well, I've got a first swat at it.
Okay.
In terms of a contract, if we want to get down to numbers.
Yeah.
Somewhere around $450,000 in this contract to start off in the first year, on a 4-year 5% increase, and then another increase that can be merit based. Based on performance based.
Okay. Now, with that performance, would that be every year? Would that be an annual?
Yeah, annual performance based 5%, and then another 5% that would almost be automatic over those next 4 years, which would help lift that salary up to standards.
Is that different than what we got? Because we've got a 10%.
I think he's breaking it into two components. Your 10% is totally performance based. What he's suggesting is one be fixed, and then the other 5% be performance.
Well, but then you'd add on top of that whatever raises that everybody else gets at the hospital. You take that out.
No.
You see that, Dr. Webb?
Well, I think in the past what you've done is offset against that. Remember, the 10% became 7% once I got that 3%. So the last payment that I got that was retro was actually a 7%, not 10%, because the 3% was already in from the the hospital.
I think that's a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's a way to do it. But what I'm trying to accomplish is what I'd like to accomplish is that I'm heavy on incentives, versus base, because I think performance to me, measurable performance to me, makes a lot more sense in the executive's position to me. So your base is what your base is, which it has to be reasonable, but I'm like, how do we uncap it? Where, you make as much as you can do, like bringing more business in, for example. So, for example, if you go out and get a big contract and it's got some administrative, a big grant or something like that, should you not benefit from that?
Do you know that during the time that I've been here, the payer mix here has flipped from a 60% non-paying and 40% paying to a 60% paying and 40% non-paying?
I do know. Yeah, in terms of pay, you're talking about patient pay.
I'm talking about paying patients has gone from 60%. If I were to get paid for performance,
we know that already.
You'd be way over 500 if I was being paid for a performance.
Well, why wouldn't that? Well, so you got a problem with that?
Board member, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to bite on that one. I am not going to bite on that one.
Attorney Mason, you come from such a corporate perspective.
Yeah, that's
And
where I'm coming from. Yeah, like
yeah,
I'm like,
I know. I hear it in your voice.
I wouldn't care if you made $1 million if we were profitable and there was some kind of way that we should get that back into into our coffers.
Essentially, you are profitable.
Well, I know we're in terms. Yes, we are. There's no question about that. But we're always looking for additional income, additional revenue. So to me, the real benefit is that you go out and get additional revenue. For example, if you go out and get a contract with Metro to take care of all their services for the correction, and get a contract from the school, we provide all the health care for the students and the people that work there. I'm looking for additional revenue because we can't. There's not but so much. We know there's not but so much you can make in our current model. The way that our current model is.
Well, I think
not but so much revenue that we can generate.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt's not going to turn loose any of those contracts with Metro, but if we look at the Charlotte clinic, where we're going to go in excess of 40,000, our overall patient volume ambulatory is going to go in excess of 40,000, basically because of that growth in the Charlotte clinic. And now we're looking at the one that's going to be on Clarksville Highway that will probably outperform what Charlotte has actually done. So we have some things in the pipeline that are really going to show that. And if we look at when we in 18, where we had a total of about $56 million as an operating budget, and now we're operating on $43 million. That in and of itself created a savings. That in and of itself created an opportunity where you probably could have paid me the entire time of my being here just with that saving plus. So the political environment here makes it very difficult for me to just make maneuvers. I might get an announcement tomorrow that something's being cut here and I lose half my staff. I have no control over that when it comes to what the mayor's office is going to do. There's limited amount of control there. That could shoot any incentive plan I have right out of the water with just a mayor making a single statement. So I just add that the risk of performing and operating in a highly politicized environment does bring a little bit of environmental risk to my performance. So I just want
that risk doesn't help us in terms of so and I'm not suggesting you're saying this, but that shouldn't be a factor. The risk should not be a factor to your performance in bringing in new revenue. That I just think that's I see that as problematic. Quite frankly.
Okay.
Because that should not be. If you look at what our mission is, and our responsibility is not just to North Nashville, it's not just to one demographic, it's to the whole city of Nashville. And so the question I've got is, if we're meeting that mission and meeting our responsibility and serving all of Nashville, how do we do that? How do we execute that? Compensate you fairly, but also compensate you in a way that you're incentivized for going out and doing what our mission says you're supposed to do. Like not being just sort of located on West End or Charlotte and in, Bordeaux.
Well, sir, I've been here 6 years now, and you have gone from a $56 million operating subsidy to a $43 million operating subsidy.
You keep reminding us of that.
I am incented to continue to do the work that I do. I'm not going to.
No. I'm not suggesting you're not. I'm trying to figure a way to encourage you more to do that. With the board support that you have, to encourage you more to do that. One of the goals and objectives that we have is to make this hospital not necessarily profitable, but at least where we're not, as we are right now, we're less dependent upon, the politics than we currently have been. And that may be a few more years, down the road. And we've got to start looking at, with your contract needs some kind of way. I don't know, when's our lease expire there at General?
Well, I want to make you aware of two things about that lease, and we probably already talked about this before, but 2027 is the actual lease end. 2024 is when the payments stop going to Meharry for occupancy of this building. So I would imagine that there's going to probably be some negotiating and bartering around how much of that 3-year non-payment can be eliminated by exiting the space sooner. Because to occupy the space for 3 years and Meharry not receive, any kind of revenues, if I was Meharry, I would be trying to figure out how can I get you guys to, to speed up this vacating of this building.
Right.
So we're factoring that piece in to make sure that if Meharry wants to see an early departure, that we would not be so encumbered here to not grant that.
Okay.
So we just want to keep that flexibility open.
So right now, based on what is on the table right now, the 4-year 5 and 5, that would take us out to 2020. Well, it would take us out to 2025, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. But there's some critical things that are going to happen in 2026 and as you said, 2027.
Right. Now, we can start working on this building in 2021. That's going to be a 5-year plan because, we haven't officially even gotten approval about that. So we're not even out of the gate yet. So I would say that we're looking at probably at 5 to 6 years from now before we would actually be safely into gaining access to a new facility.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you. So we're looking at now. You've asked for 5 years,
right?
According to this, I guess the counter right now is on the table, or at least it's not on the table. It's just for discussion. It's just for the 4 versus for the 5. Is that not correct, Frank?
Yes.
Hey, Alex, jump in here now. Alex, come with me.
I'm here. I'm looking at what you guys sent. Trying to make sure I know what we're talking about.
Okay. Are you looking at the proposed agreement? Have you looked at that?
Let me pull it up. Is that one of these Word documents that was sent to us, or is that in the body of the email?
No, it's a Word document that was sent. It's just a proposed contract. It's got the date of the contract was June 15, 2021.
Okay, yeah, I have that right now.
It's got the scope. It's got specific responsibilities of the chief executive officer. That's general in nature. The ask is, what's on discussion now. We're right in the compensation area of the contract, and we've been discussing about just a base plus, a base of 450, which would be essentially about $13,000 above what he currently is at. Is that right? You 467?
No.
It's a little more than that. It's a little more than that.
Yeah, I think we're 436, 437, yeah.
Okay, all right. So, and then we increased his base to 450 with a 4-year contract. We'd incentivize his pay based on 5%. It would be almost an automatic 5% increase, and then another 5% would be incentivized. That's what I kind of understood what was being discussed right now. Now, so let's see if we can get past that. At least the first part of it, the compensation. What's everybody's feeling about the committee? What's your feeling about the offer that's on the table right now?
Mine?
No, I can't. No, I ain't asking you. I know what your feeling is already.
Okay.
I guess we're negotiating with you, so you put yours on the table. We're putting ours on the table now. What we're willing to offer you. That doesn't mean you have to accept it. It's just something that we want to come back and make a recommendation on. You have to say yay or nay, one way or the other about it. Mm-hmm. What's your? I know what Frank's thinking. What's your thinking, Alex?
I hate to be the one that sounds like I'm backtracking us. I still feel like I don't have enough information of knowing comparable salaries of safety net hospitals, because a nonprofit hospital, I mean, you're taking in patients, you're still getting paid by, by private payers and by government payments. That's a totally different, Vanderbilt's in a totally different world than other comparable safety net hospitals, where part of the mission is to serve uninsured. So by nature, you're going to have less income coming in by the mission of the institution. So I'd just like to have a little more information to make sure I'm making an informed decision on comparable CEO compensation for safety net hospitals.
But and I think that's a fair statement, because the one thing that we don't want to do is underpay. You understand what I'm saying? There's a danger of, what you're saying, Alice, there's a danger that we are not offering you enough based upon what safety net hospitals are doing, right now. So I think it's fair to everybody to make sure that we're operating with, current and accurate information as it relates to that. I hate to think that we're not paying you what you're worth and what's in the marketplace. I'd hate to think that, just because we've got to, if we're going to have to defend it anyway, then I'm thinking that we need to make sure that we have all the information on the table. I would agree. So if it comes back that safety net hospitals are paying their CEOs, measuring apples to apples and orange to orange, they're paying the $550,000 to $600,000. Then I don't think it would be fair for us to just give you $450,000.
Let me ask you a question. Does it matter what the credentials of the individual is? Is that just totally discounted?
No. I think you look at the credentials and performance. It's not that we're guessing what you do. We know what you do.
No. I'm talking about the actual credentials, experience, academic credentials, and basically accomplishments. Years of experience, accomplishments, and academic.
The thing that I was weighing, and this is my training is in public administration, so I understand the negotiations that are different from kind of a corporate world. It's different because you do take on climate, you do take on all of those kind of other pieces that go into this. But there are three things that I'm looking at. Number one is you have an HR person who is responsible for being familiar with what these salaries look like in these worlds. We don't do this every day. We shouldn't be researching it. We should be just giving the information. So I'm going off of what was submitted. If it's not accurate, then that's then we have to have those discussions with the HR that provided us this data.
Okay.
The second thing I looked at is that a starting salary of $12,000 more, and if you look at that percentage-wise, I think that equals up to about 3% or so of what your current salary is. So that's why I thought we should be cautious and careful in terms of not jumping from $437 to $527 as a starting salary.
Okay.
But a 3 or 4% increase from last year's initial ending salary to this year's beginning is certainly reasonable. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is, in terms of the incentive pay, we can make that look like whatever it needs to look like, and until we get to those numbers that we think are where we should be. I said 5 and 5. It may not be that. It may be lower. It may be higher. That piece of it is just to make sure we get the salary where it needs to be over a set of time. If performances are met, the hospital is doing well. I know you recommended 5 years. I think I'm thinking about the appetite for the full committee that we'll take this back to. Some of them have terms and have been new. And I think that the stability of a 4-year contract feels good to me. And again, I'm probably taking in too much of the political stuff in terms of what that looks like in 4 years, new mayor, all that kind of stuff, or same mayor. But that's kind of my thinking. I don't really want to research hospital CEO salaries. I want to have that data, share it with me so that we can put that in the hands of the committee and feel confident that we've done due diligence. So that's kind of where I am, and that's why
that's why you're on the table. Are you on the committee? Because you give us that perspective. I'm on the committee. I have a different perspective, and Alex has a different perspective altogether. So we're all dealing with different perspectives, I think, which I think just adds to the wealth of knowledge and approach that we can take to deal with that. And I'm thinking that we need to try to satisfy everybody's concern that they may have. I like that approach that you just articulated in reference to the HR having the responsibility of delivering us the information so we don't have to go out and try to research what in fact is adequate, which is an adequate salary, for a CEO.
Do you not believe that you have that information? Do you not have that information?
Well, we have it, but we don't necessarily have it in terms of saying that this is what's paid to safety net hospital CEO versus, just private facilities.
Right. Hey, this is Bonnie. I'm sorry I got on late. My calendar alert didn't work. I apologize.
Hey, okay. How you doing, Bonnie?
I'm good. I missed the first 30 minutes. I've been on for about 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. But anyway, I don't know what was discussed in the first 30 minutes. Another variable that I think, in addition to the safety net thing that Alex brought up, is hospital size. So, a 1,000-bed hospital versus a 250-bed hospital is a larger business. And so I don't know, and that, Frank, that's great what you said about HR, because HR is supposed to be the rails on this. They're supposed to let us know whether things are competitive and whether they're over the top.
Well, the sense that I got from HR is that reading this from HR is the market data from Smith was presented to the board in early 2020 for the CEO's role. He will be doing an evaluation in August 2021. The request of $500,000 is near where his base pay would be projected based upon previous year's increase, and is still below the market rate for the CEO position. That's what HR is telling us. That's their comment.
Well, could an action item from this meeting, if we don't resolve everything today, be to request that HR give us more specific information about safety net hospital CEO pay and hospital CEOs at similar bed size hospitals, like Dr. Slovis brought up. And Dr. Webb, please know that I appreciate the awkwardness of public conversations about your compensation, and I want to second Mr. Manson, making sure that we're not underpaying or overpaying you regarding similar positions. And I know everyone is thinking this too on the board who's on this call, that we want to get this done and we want to do it right so no one has anything to say about it, because we have other battles to fight this year. And this isn't the one that we want to be the center of attention. So I'd rather us take a little bit of time and do it right so we can just get it done. That's just my thought on having some more accurate data.
Well,
more precise data, not that it's not accurate, more precise.
Yeah. I think that we could, what I might suggest is, there's a couple ways we can do it. One, we can adopt this as a proposal subject to the information that we need to secure from HR, just sort of to verify with HR. We're not going out and do our own research, in terms of the information that they provided. At least I'm not. Alice, you may. I ain't going out and doing it. I got enough to do, and I know you do too. So let's let that be. Let's use that as a model to work from. Okay, we've got a starting point. The 455. I'm looking at what I like to see is a higher incentive. Instead of being 5, I like to see that 15. If we can come up with those things to measure. what's everybody's thinking about that? The 5 would go automatic, but the 15 would be tied to performance.
15% on top of the 5?
Yeah, it'd be a total 20% incentive that he could earn. Now the 15, he's got to earn that based on performance, whatever we deem those things should be.
So that would be equivalent to about $80,000 more each year.
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying an $80,000 raise each year?
Mm-hmm. Incentivized, yeah. You think that's a little much?
I just think that
that's hard to sell.
When you're talking about public dollars.
Yeah. I'm looking at my incentive package. It's higher than that. But it's all performance. it's so much performance in there.
I think Dr. Webb said it earlier, because when you start talking about incentive in a public sector, there are a lot of issues that you have to balance that against. I mean, it's not as I mean, he could perform very well, and the council, pass an ordinance that goes in a different direction.
Yeah. So mine is just like, you know what? If I perform, my numbers are what it is, and I've agreed to what it is, you can pay me. I mean, but I'm dealing with a whole different perspective. It's just pure numbers. It's pure numbers. It's pure, retention of people.
Let me give you an example, Mr. Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Webb could save the hospital tomorrow $1 million+ by getting rid of pediatrics or delivery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. But that may not be the appetite of the community. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Or the board, or the mayor, or whatever it may be. So I think you have to be a little bit more sensitive in terms of performance in those high numbers, because that's going to be hard to reach. But then if you reach them for 2 years, then we got another problem. If the CEO gets a 40% raise in 2 years and the other Metro employees are getting 3%, you got a whole nother conversation you got to have.
But now here's the issue and I've got to balance this too, because if we do that, what I'm suggesting, then money becomes the reason for everything that happens over there. And I keep arguing that we really shouldn't be arguing with the council about money when it comes to taking care of people. That's exactly what I'm saying. You're saying that what I'm going to do, I'm dropping that right in somebody's lap. Like, you know what? This man's getting $40,000 extra money, and ain't no way. I don't care what he's doing over there. It ain't worth no $40,000. But so I'll move off that. I'll move off that position. I think the 5 and 5 is probably makes more sense. In hindsight, when you put the numbers to it. When you put the numbers to it, then that's a lot of money. That's a lot of big difference. But Dr. Webb, don't understand. I still think if you go out and get additional revenue from something that we're not doing, that there should be some benefit to him. I just think that's, I don't know. I don't know what I think it is.
And for the performance bonus, performance is not just increasing profit or decreasing expenses. That could be increasing or maintaining a safety rating. That could be decreasing avoidable poor outcomes. That could be increasing employee retention, which we know saves money in the long run and increases, everyone's job satisfaction when there aren't a lot of temporary workers around there, or a lot of turnover among their coworkers. And we know that improves outcomes for patients. There can be other very measurable metrics that are correlated to the bottom line, but aren't just based on revenue coming into the hospital.
Yeah, and I think there's some of that in the language in here, which talks about, starting July 1st, NGH achieves its DESCO reaccreditation. That's measurable. It meets its board-approved budget targets as expense or revenue. So they're in there. I mean, we've got some measurable things that are in there. That's that's under compensation 3C. So I agree. we can measure his performance, not necessarily, based upon the profitability of the facility or the income that comes in. So under this, we've got, versus the way it's written here, the recommendation is 5 on these measurable performance things as opposed to 10, which is in the proposed contract. And there's 5%. So that would all change. Right now it's 16%. You're saying it would just be a flat 10, 5 and 5. Is that correct? Okay. What's everybody's feel about that, Bonnie? Do you have any thoughts about that, one way or the other? Are you looking at the agreement, Bonnie? Bonnie, are you there? You on mute?
Yeah, I'm here. Had to get off mute. Sorry.
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, I was looking up the agreement, and I guess I don't know. The 5 and 5 is 5%.
Oh, I'm sorry, because you didn't hear that. The proposal on the table right now is to increase the salary. The base salary would be $450,000. It will be for 4 years total versus the 5 which is requested. There will be a 5% increase, just an increase. If Metro gets 3% across the board, then he would get 2%. So it's a net 5. It's 5, whatever that is. If Metro gets 6, then he wouldn't get anything. It would just be, he got his 5. The other 5% are embodied in the things that are listed here under C, which are reaccreditation, approval of the budget, patient volume targets are met, level 3 NCQA certification is met, NHA maintains its Press Ganey scores.
Yeah, I'm looking at that page now. So what it says is increase his salary up to 10% to the proportional extent that he achieved the following milestones, right?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
And so what you're saying is we decrease that to 5% on top of the 5 annual increase. Then we give him a 5% incentive compensation.
That's correct. So the total compensation as it relates to raises and as it relates to incentive would be capped at the 10%.
Yes.
Okay,
I understand.
Okay. We're not putting in here, and maybe it doesn't need to be in here now, about the PSA. That's not part of the incentive. It's not.
And I have a procedural question. So this budget, this contract, does it have to be approved by Metro, or do we just approve this contract and this is his contract, and then also, where does the salary come from? From the operating budget of the hospital, from Metro, from where?
No, it comes from the hospital.
Okay.
Metro doesn't have to approve it. We approve it.
Yeah,
Okay, so we approve that it comes out of our operating budget, and then it's up to us to figure out how. Yeah. Okay, got it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So this is on us. Okay.
Richard, what's the base that you're proposing right now with that 5 and 5?
I'm proposing 450 base and 5 and 5 and 4 years.
Okay, just want to make sure I have my notes right.
Okay. And are we going to take out? Are we talking about taking out this PSA?
Yeah, the PSA should never been in there, to be honest with you. I think we got frustrated, got caught in that, but it shouldn't be a part of the CEO's. It just shouldn't be a part of his contract. We understand that that's part of managing the hospital, but it just shouldn't be a part of the contract. If we want to tie it to performance incentive or something of that nature, I'm totally okay with that. But I just think that should have never, ever been put in there. I think we put it in there at a space of frustration.
Yeah,
we were all kind of frustrated. We all kind of say, hey, let's just get it done. Mm-hmm. And, but, yeah. Let me tell you why, Richard. Why I think that is, if the CEO puts getting the PSA because it's tied to his pay in front of the best interests of the hospital, then you put him in a precarious situation. Mm-hmm. So if getting the PSA takes precedent based on salary or those type of things, then the decision to get the PSA done may not be in the best interest of the hospital. It may be in the best interest of the contract language.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah,
that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it that way. And I agree. We were all frustrated. We still are that we don't have a PSA.
Sure.
But I keep hearing, well, it ain't just one person's fault. Anyway.
I think we're closer now, but I just would rather not it be tied into the contract.
All right. There's also provision and there's standard provisions on termination. I don't think we need to do anything else. We don't need to add anything to that. I don't understand about the confidentiality held because it's a public document. Anybody can find out what's in it, so it's all public. But the information that you receive in the course of your employment, of course, we know what that is. The employment, I think, is fine. Ethics is fine. The rest of the language in there is just sort of standard, typical language. So the only thing that we have agreed that we have agreed, I guess, and I guess I'll take a vote on it. The proposed compensation, subject to further discussion with HR, is that it be $450,000. The term will be for 4 years. The incentive will be based upon the document. We got two incentives. We got an automatic increase annually of 5%. And of course, that's offset by any increase that is given to just across the board. And there's another 5% incentive that are based upon the things that I just read that are related to performance. We have taken into consideration the starting salary, and the increase would be approximately 3%. We have taken into consideration the things that we think are important as it relates to incentive pay. We have taken into consideration that we're talking about a safety net hospital versus a public facility, but we've taken that into consideration as a qualifier, not based upon it changing our evaluation. And Bonnie has brought in the issue as it relates to hospital size. So those are all the things that we have considered, and I would like, if it's the pleasure of the committee, to report that to our chair at the appropriate time. Do you all want me to get with HR to discuss that with her and let her know what our concerns are? Is that what the pleasure is? Okay, Alex says it. Frank?
I'm good with that.
Bonnie? Bonnie?
I had to unmute again. Sorry, because my phone rang. I only had one. Yeah, I'm good with all of that. The only other thing that I had to ask is when we talk about his the performance increase of up to 5%, proportional to the extent that he achieved the following milestones. But do we have? I think we need to be more detailed about what percent of what, if you get partway to something, what percent does that count at? Do all 5 of these metrics weigh evenly? I mean, I think it needs to be a little bit more for his protection as well as ours. It needs to be something that we're not doing subjectively every year when we decide what performance portion he gets.
Do you have any idea what you think that needs to look like?
Well, let me say this. I'm glad Bonnie brought that up because Alex and I were having to, go over evaluations to make determinations. And when you talked about subjectivity, we certainly had to dig in there, to determine that. So I like that. I like it really being tied very specifically. When we talk about audit, is that 1%? When we talk about safety, is that a percentage? When we talk about staff, is that a percent? So 4 or 5 things that are really important to the continued success of the hospital that I like Bonnie's idea that it is tied directly to those things, and we have that in writing, and we're not guessing when it's time to look at this evaluation process.
So the way that we currently have it written, which are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there are five things in here that are listed as measurables and milestones. So you're saying that what we need to do, because some of those were way heavier than other things.
Well, some of them are just yes, no. Did we get reaccredited by Joint Commission? Yes, no. Have you met your volume targets and budget, including average daily census, outpatient clinic volumes, emergency department volumes? I mean, all of those. That's a continuous variable, or multiple variables rolled into one metric.
So do you see anything else that we need to put there as a measurable goal? Because interesting enough, there are 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And do we weigh them? Do you want to weigh them now in the agreement? Not now, but you think they need to be weighted? Do you think the accreditation is more important than maintain its Press-Ganey scores for all metrics so measured?
Yes. Because Press-Ganey is going to be rolled. Press-Ganey is also going to have an impact on your census, your volumes, etc. I mean, the higher you're rated, the more people are going to come to your hospital. They're not completely independent. But absolutely, you have to get reaccredited. I mean, that's number one. And also, your audit needs to be unqualified. Which we're about to hear this afternoon. And then the other things are more are squishier. They're more subjective. Maintain your level 3 patient center. Okay, that's a yes no. And then the Press-Ganey score is a continuous variable.
So why don't we do 2.2 and the last 2.5.5? Because it seems to me that number one, that accreditation, yes no, 2%. MDA board approval of the budget as expenses, 2%.
Did that include the audit in that one?
Yes, that has to include the audit, unqualified audit.
Yeah. So those seem to be the 2 major ones. What about the volume? Well, we got the patient volume targets.
Well, that's important. That's very important to our economic and mission. Our economic health and our mission, but it's not as it's not as black and white. It's all of those are variables. So I think we have to have a meet, exceed, and reach, or something like that. So you have to meet, then you exceed, then you reach, and then you decide. Based on that, what percent of the percent that variable is going to get.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to, just to give whoever does the evaluation, some measure of confidence about what they're doing to determine whether he gets the 5% or not, that we can talk about that, or we can do it now.
And again, I think that's another thing we can almost pull HR in to create this metrics for us for the evaluation process. When we went through it the last time, they gave us some of the materials and things that we need to focus on. And they can design it, kind of under that scenario that Bonnie was kind of really lifting up.
Okay. All right. So that's 2 things that I need to go to HR. One, to develop this matrix as it relates to measuring in what C in terms of the 5%, and also the other issue as it relates to just the general compensation. How about that, team? All right. So do we have any other matters that we need to to talk about? Any other questions or anything else in this agreement that that simply like jumps out at you?
But Dr. Webb, was there anything else in this that you'd like for us to consider or think through?
I think we're looking at a situation where you're going to have over the next 6 years or plus or something like that. You're going to be in the middle of looking at a new facility, one way or the other. You're going to be looking at a major project. Going to play off of the conclusion of this lease. So as you look at whether or not you are going to want to be in the middle of a negotiating for a position project, you can take that in consideration. Or, I mean, obviously you can dismiss it if you want, but it is something that you might want to get some thought to.
So to lock it down for a longer period of time is what you're saying.
Well,
that's your idea. Is that your idea around the 5 years versus?
Yeah, it was a 5 year, because that seemed to be a good look at being able to get substantial completion of whatever process we're working on without interruption. Mm-hmm. And right towards, it looks like, I don't think this could be done in a 4 year period. So you'd be looking at, in the middle of that, engaging in another negotiating process. So that's, what I would put forward as something to.
Have you thought about 3 + 1 + 1?
Well, yeah, that equals 5. So yes.
Yeah, I mean 3, and then the option on the last 2. Those other 2 years are option years.
Option 4.
Yeah, and it's at our option as to whether we want to retain you or not.
Right. I feel a lot better with the contract personally.
Yeah. I also wanted to say that I was looking at this termination for convenience. It does seem to me, if I'm Dr. Webb, I'd feel a little uncomfortable about a 30-day advance written notice. It seems like not termination for cause, but termination for convenience. Alex, you can can say if that's a common, or maybe Richard, I don't know.
Well, I personally don't think this was a very favorable contract.
No. So termination for convenience for 30 days. I mean, that seems awful short.
Well, termination for convenience
means I don't like the shirt you wore today.
Yeah.
Let's not have you keep on.
But the termination for convenience still allow him to get the full compensation of this contracted salary, correct?
Just for 30 days.
During which time it stops.
Yeah, at the end of 30 days. I mean, that's not much. That's not much security. Now, termination for cause, I don't.
Oh yeah,
that's not a problem. But the termination for convenience is the part that makes me feel insecure about this contract.
Her computer here so I can monitor.
If I'm Dr. Webb.
And she did this part, so I'm doing both of them.
Well, and
now I just want I want the lawyers to read this, because
it was pretty.
I think the 30 days is the written advance notice, but that doesn't eliminate the obligation to pay the contract.
Well, the contract says for 30 days.
No, she's right. It just paid for 30 days. He's gone. During which time it shall continue to pay Dr. Webb his salary. During which time? Which time means the 30 days.
Okay.
During which time it shall continue to pay Dr. Webb his salary and benefits.
That is pretty rough. That's what you should be lifting up, Dr. Webb, not the fire.
Right. So I don't know what a reasonable time is and what a usual time is. Looks like Alex is still muted. I don't know if she.
Sorry, I was just waiting until everybody was done talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. Dr. Webb can also terminate the contract with just 30-day notice. I don't have a response as to whether that's normal to have both those clauses in for a CEO of a hospital. I would defer to our folks on the broader board who have expertise in hospital management, and maybe to the council for
I'm gonna have
for
to ask
Nashville General.
I'll ask them about that. We need to work that. We need to work that out in terms of come up with a fair arrangement.
Yeah, I think termination by Dr. Webb should be long. He should have to give us more than 30 days, and that we should have to give him more than 30 days if it's just for no cause.
Okay. Termination of by convenience. I'm glad I ain't got that in my contract. They just walk in and say, "Hey, I'm sick of you. I ain't feeling you today."
Man, listen, we need those head football coaches contracts.
Okay. So Bonnie, I'll take that back to HR to see if we can fix that in a way that is fair not only to him, but it's also fair to us too.
And what's standard practice?
What's the standard? Okay. All righty. Anybody have any other provisions in there? You all, we can continue to read this. I will let the chair know that we have essentially, we have some recommendations, but we have some follow-up because I have to report to her before the board meeting. I will try to have all of this resolved. If we do have to have another meeting, it has to be public. So I will let you all know and get it set up if we do need to do a follow-up meeting, just for me to report back to you all what my findings are in reference to the questions that I have. Would that be okay with the committee if we do it that way?
Fine with me.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
I'm good with that.
All right. You all, it is now 3:15. I appreciate everybody's effort on this, and I will continue to do the follow-up, making sure that I get the questions answered, so that, and we need to do, we need evaluation. Okay. Determine the 5% measure on performance. Okay. We need to weight it, the weighting of that. All right. And the termination of clause. Okay. Anything else? I think we've done I thank you all, the committee. I thank the committee. I think we've done a great job in terms of getting through this. Dr. Webb, we will get this back to you in writing for your consideration and review, by you or your counsel, and then see what kind of counter what you're going to come back to us with, in reference to this agreement. Okay.
And did we decide for sure 4 versus 5 years? Because Dr. Webb made a good point about all of this, negotiating to move and the lease and stuff like that being probably.
We said 3 plus. What about 4 plus 1 option year? 4.
Well, I don't know what that means actually.
That means that at the option, after 4 years, his contract is fixed for 4 years, and in the 5th year, we have an option to continue it as it is. We don't have to rewrite the contract, renegotiate. We just continue this contract for 1 more year. That's correct.
Okay.
What do you think, Alex? You're thinking on 4 plus 1? Or 3 plus 1 plus 1. 4 plus 1 is 4 is what he wants. 5 is what he really wants. You don't want to go down to 3. That's currently what he has. So I think I'm stating that correctly. The 4 years gives us, the 4 plus 1 gives us the stability as we go through this transition, whatever that transition is going to be, in reference to are moving into a new facility or extending the place that we're currently residing in. Alex, you have any thought?
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. I don't. I'm sitting here thinking about whether I have any strong opinion. I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Okay. What about you, Frank?
I think four. I think 4 is the right number, but I'm totally okay with the 4 plus 1.
Let me see how we can get that structured. Bonnie, what's your thinking?
Yeah, 4 plus 1 is fine.
Okay.
You know, actually, if you can terminate for convenience, it doesn't
Well,
matter.
but it don't matter anyway. It could be 20 years, couldn't it?
Right, or it could be 6 months from now. But yeah, 4 plus 1 is fine with me.
Okay, but essentially, Dr. Webb, we're offering a 30-day contract. Based on what that one says, termination for convenience. But anyway, is there anything else that needs to come before this committee at this time? I think we've got another meeting that starts. Is it at 4 or 4:30? You on?
4.
On the audit?
Yeah, so let me see so I can be on time for this one.
It's actually at 4.
4 o'clock.
Yes. 4.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing everybody at that time. Any other questions or comments? Frank, you had something? Okay. Yeah. Take care, you all. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye.